I think the most important thing is to get started, right? To not be afraid and to dabble, to experiment, and to experiment with like a healthy dose of skepticism, right? So if you don't know how to use it, you might not get the right results. But if you try it out, you can do that. And there's, I think, really interesting ways in which, an individual can use AI and ways in which a company can sort of, at a higher level, take a step back and say, what kind of work are we doing here? Where are the bottlenecks? Where are there opportunities for us to be smarter and faster and more efficient about the way we work?
I love that. And so I love the skepticism part. Years, I don't even know when I started using it. A colleague just said you have to use it, use AI, ChatGPT, use Claude. And I started playing with both of them, slowly. But the more I got into it, the more I was getting good results. And I really enjoyed it. Hello, leaders, light keepers, and fabulous, beautiful humans. It's Michele Phillips with this week's episode of Write Your Outcome. Today we have Lauren Cappell from Canada, Toronto, in the I always want to say in the studio because it feels like you're in the studio.
I'm in iStudio.
Hello, Lauren. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Welcome. As always, I'm going to read Lauren's background because she is a powerhouse and I do not want to not do this justice. And then we will dive into questions. So, Lauren Cappell, today's guest is a powerhouse in the world of technology and growth. She's a senior technology executive and former lawyer who has spent her career harnessing the power of artificial intelligence to uncover new opportunities and drive meaningful business expansion. With experience ranging from fast-moving startups to global enterprises like Amazon, Thomson Reuters, BlackBerry, she excels at identifying, negotiating, and scaling high-impact partnerships and revenue streams. She has built and led high-performing teams across strategy, business development, product, and revenue operations, and she's known for her ability to translate complex data into clear growth strategies. Her background in law gives her a unique edge in closing complex, high-profile deals and navigating the most sophisticated negotiations. Across industries, enterprise, tech, healthcare, life science, retail, and beyond, Lauren has helped organizations launch, operate, and scale new businesses with billion-dollar potential. At the heart of her work is a deep focus on customer value, retention, and long-term success. Please join me in welcoming a brilliant leader, strategist, builder of the future, Lauren Cappell. I am very excited for this conversation.
Thank you, Michele. I guess because you do these often, you don't give yourself an introduction, but your background's pretty impressive too.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I love what I do. And I love connecting with minds like yours because I have this, I'm making assumptions. My intuition, because that's my right brain, tells me you're probably very left brain. I'm probably right brain. So I love bringing our two brains together because we need the whole brain. And when I went to your, read about you, I said, oh my gosh, I'm not even sure I understand what she does, but I do. I'm kidding myself, but I'm not deep into the strategy, the AI world. And you are in the AI world. You've done all this fabulous work and built an extraordinary career at this intersection. And now you're starting a new chapter. So the podcast is Write Your Outcome. So tell us what was the precipice that caused you to say, I need to write a new outcome for myself and what I'm doing in the world?
Yeah, sometimes there's just like natural breaks in your career, in a job, in a whatever, where you sort of go like, okay, what do I want? What makes me happy? And I think a lot of this is connected to the broader AI world and what's been happening there. And I think part of the reason I've landed and what was sort of like the impetus of starting my own consulting practice is because I was looking around and going like, God, maybe 2 years ago, probably I was looking for a new role. I wanted to work again in applied AI. So that means like where you're using AI in the enterprise world, like at work, for professionals. And generally I was looking for stuff like a COO role or a chief revenue officer role. And there were no roles to be had. Like it wasn't even like I was applying for roles and not getting them. There just was nothing out there
because they were filled or because they didn't have them.
They didn't have them. Like the tech wasn't there yet. And so there are all these companies doing really interesting things, but they weren't making any money yet. And so they didn't need someone to run it as a business. They weren't looking at margins. They weren't looking at growth. Like this was like 2 or 3 years ago, right? OpenAI was a thing, but it wasn't out there in the world. And it wasn't in every, workplace, right? And so my timing was off. And so then fast forward 2 years and I sort of went, no, you know what? Look where we are now. we're so much further along. And it's not even just that, okay, now there are those rules for me. It's that now you have people figuring out how to use AI in their day-to-day professional life. And I want to be a part of that shift, of that wave, and help people understand how they can leverage AI to its fullest potential and their fullest potential. And that's kind of what led me to say, okay, well, I think where can I have the most impact? Where can I do the work that interests me most and makes me like want to get up and start my day? That's by working with lots of different kinds of people. So working with startups and helping them sell AI services into larger enterprises, but also with large enterprises who are then looking at like, okay, what have I got? What data do I have? How do I use this? How do I sell this data? Do I want to license it to train models? How do I teach my organization how to use AI?
Yeah, this is so good because you're like a guide, right? An AI guide. And we really need that because, I made the joke that, I probably don't understand what you do, but I do. But when someone explains it to me, like if you had to sit me down, I had to figure these things out, my brain goes, I don't feel like figuring that out. But if I have someone like you, that helps me along. I used to sell cell phones right out of college. I was selling wireless before I even saw one. We're talking, it was brand new. And I used to get very, anxious when a new phone would come out or a new technology because I didn't understand it. But as soon as someone explained it to me, it was like, oh, that's so cool, right? That makes so much sense. So I see you as this person who's going to guide companies. So what is your sweet spot? Are you looking for giant companies? Are you looking for, you've worked with a lot of giants. Are you looking for smaller companies, mid-size?
My time is almost split, like from startups to mid-size or maybe SMBs kind of to large enterprises. I don't know. I think it's kind of, you can find interesting things to do at all the different levels. I personally like when the company is not the largest of enterprises. It's just the reality, like large enterprises have a harder time moving really quickly. And part of what gives me great joy, like I got off a call, a little earlier today. Let's say the company is like, I don't know, 1,000 people, roughly 2,000 people, maybe. But when they're adopting an AI tool, I can get on the phone with a user who's used it, who loves it, wants to understand how to leverage it better, wants to talk about how they're using it. And you sort of get to connect with people and really see the impact of the work you're doing. When you're working at a really large enterprise, a lot of that can be sort of at the strategy level, as opposed to really getting deeper on the implementation side and execution.
Yeah, and that I understand something stay forever in the talking stages before they actually execute it in big companies. So share with us some success stories or wins you see a client that's using AI and that they're using it brilliantly. And, I had another AI expert on a while ago, but the one thing I like that she talked to me about was what keeps us from like not liking it is our fear. And let's talk about, I just think I just asked you two different questions. Let's talk about, I don't believe in the fear. I always believe that everything is two subjects. There's what we want and what we don't want. So how do you talk to people that maybe don't want to use it or afraid of it? What would you say to those people?
I'm not sure it's really a choice anymore.
Yeah.
Like you don't get to say, I don't want to use this. I would put money on that. And so it's really about, there's sort of this, glib line, like AI isn't going to replace you, but somebody who uses AI might replace you. And, without wanting to be sort of a fear monger, like, I think that's true. I think this is the same as, I don't know how many years back we go, but people were like, I don't want to use email. I want to write my letters and I want to, right? Like now,
yes, it sounds so crazy now, right?
I don't want to have a mobile phone. I have a phone at home and that's all I need, right? These are waves. I don't think we're at a point today where, today you could say, I don't want to use AI. And some people would be like, okay, that's right, because AI might destroy humanity, right? Like there are definitely differences of opinion right now. But I think fast forward 2 years, if you said, I want to operate at the highest level in my company in whatever industry, but I don't want to touch AI, I think you're going to have a hard time. And I think my guess is those people are already using AI. They just don't know it, right? Like you're using Google. You Google something now, the first thing that pops up on your screen is their AI recommendation, like their recommended answer, right? So we are all seeing, using, hearing AI in so many different parts of our world, even if we're not logging into ChatGPT or using some kind of enterprise tool.
So I love that point. And I use this kind of silly analogy, but I used to get mad at self-checkout counters because I was like kind of angry that there was nobody here to serve me anymore. And I was mad at the machine before I got to it. So then, of course, when something didn't scan right, I was like puffing and huffing and huffing and puffing. And then one day I was like, Michele, it's you. It's all you. You need to change your attitude. You have a bad attitude. Make friends with it because it's not going away. So my brain wants to hear all about how an entrepreneur can use AI, but I also have a lot of corporate clients. So tell me which way. Can you give us some tips on both sides?
Well, one tip I'll give you, like especially with a tool like ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude, like any of them, or even enterprise versions. Like I know, I'm very familiar with the legal landscape, but in all of the different industries, right? You have chatbot-based general purpose tools like a ChatGPT. And one of the things, I think the two basic tips that I would give is sort of like number one, this sort of notion of garbage in, garbage out. So if you're like, give me the answer to, what my P&L should look like next year. And you don't tell them what industry you're in or where you were last year or what your goals are, or, like you don't give them the context. You'll get an answer back and it might be okay.
Yeah,
but
yesterday I asked what the best cities to live in. He was like, well, where do you give me some stuff?
you like, what kind, do you care about food? Do you care about driving? Does traffic drive you crazy? Right? Like you got to kind of give it the context that it needs to give you the right answer, because the answer is not the same for everyone. Right?
So how are entrepreneurs using AI that I might not know of? What are some things that are out there that people are doing with it that I might be like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that was that you could do that?
Sure. Well, and actually, if I can just give one more tip before going there, the other tip I would give is that like with the tool like ChatGPT, what's different about this versus maybe other technology that people have used is that, like I call it, it's not a one-shot deal. So you don't say, for example, like, give me my 2026 plan. You go, okay, here's my 2025 plan. Here's how many employees I have right now. Here's, our major wins from 2025. And here's here are the notes I wrote about what I think
history
holds. I give it that context and then I put it into ChatGPT. And ChatGPT will then come back with like, oh, okay. Have you thought about expanding into this industry? And you're like, no, that's it. Yeah, you could include that. And then it'll come back and be like, well, what about this? What about that? And my point of all this is that it's an iterative exercise. It's not intending to come back when you say, give me a 2026 plan. And it says, okay, here you go. Download it, off to the races. Like that's not the way I think we should be using these tools. It's really about that back and forth, that iterative exchange that you're going to get the most value out of it. And I think often, you shouldn't be expecting to get this final product ready to go, right? We are humans. We have this, expertise, intuition, judgment, all of it. And the way I think about AI is using AI tools, again, in whatever industry or general tools you want, to get rid of the busy work. Let it do the repetitive manual tasks that you don't want to do so that you have the energy and time to go apply your judgment to it. I think it's just remembering that, in some cases, an AI tool is going to spit out the answer. And in many other cases where you're looking for it to help you be more efficient, more productive, smarter, faster, whatever it is at work, that there is this layer of you that you're going to put on top of whatever the output is.
Yeah, I love that. This layer of you. It's helped me so much and saved me so much time with so many things. And I kind of think back when I went to school, we didn't even use calculators. I mean, it was brand new. And now we wouldn't think of like you not using, adding in our head or long division or all that stuff. So to me, this is just another tool that I get. It's a little tricky to figure out now because it can, write your term paper and that kind of thing. But I love what you said about the layer of you on top of it.
Yeah. And I think, I think the question you were asking after that was sort of, how could an entrepreneur use this, use AI? And I think there's so many ways you could use it, but I'll give you one example and then you can let me know if you want more. But, sometimes I think it can be really interesting to have it challenge you, right? So you can say like, oh, I wrote this document, where are the holes? Where's the logic bad? Where have I not expressed myself well? So that you can go back and forth and improve something you've written. But I also think it's really interesting, particularly if you have, if your audience consists of a lot of people who are running their own businesses. One of the ways that I found it to be really powerful is, I'm not a finance expert. I'm not a marketing expert. I am kind of a generalist. but I have good judgment in some of these other areas. And so I can use ChatGPT, for example, to build a financial plan. And I can go and say, help me create this. Here are my inputs. Here are the most important levers for my business. Here are some assumptions I'm making about how my business is going to grow over the next 18 months. And I do a lot of this work for my clients. And, again, to get into this example, I can have Claude as one of the general purpose tools, create a Google sheet that is basically a financial plan, full P&L for one of my clients' businesses. And what's really important is that I don't then take that and say, here you go, client, we're done here, right? I have to look at it. They do make mistakes. There are hallucinations. I am not an expert in writing sophisticated formulas for Excel, but I can look at a number and say, this doesn't feel right.
What's a hallucination? Is that one that makes a mistake? I never heard it put that way.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So a hallucination is when it makes stuff up.
Right? Okay.
So, it can make errors and it can make stuff up. And numbers, I think, are generally speaking a trickier area, or can be a trickier area for LLMs to manage. But, I might have said, like, if this client base is going to grow, 5 clients every month, and the deal size is going to get larger. So write the formulas to show how that, the revenue grows over the period of 12 months. And then I might look and go like, that number doesn't feel right. And I'll go into the spreadsheet and I'll look at the formula and I'll go, I'm not sure I know what this formula is doing, but I'll go back to Claude, this AI assistant, and go, this number feels off. And it'll then look at me like, oh, you're right. That number's wrong.
That was, I want to stop on that because it's so important, because that was your intuition that said,
yes,
right? And I always say, people that are afraid of it, I'm like, it's artificial intelligence. It's not infinite intelligence, right? It only knows what we give it. It doesn't emote, all these things, but it is useful. I did ask it. You just made me remember, probably at the beginning of the year, I asked it where, and then again, after using it for a while, so it gets to know me, where am I holding myself back? And the answer was very spot on, and again, it's for me, it was telling me, it gave me suggestions and and I just loved it. But again, as a human, I have to discern whether this is information that's garbage or not garbage, right? Is it something, that's my choice, and knowing I have that choice.
Yeah. And look, there's also sort of elements of, and again, the tools are different by industry and whatever, but there's also an element of like, check the work, check the output, right? When you're asking like, what is personal to me, there's nothing to check, right? It's just giving you an opinion on your life and your goals and what you want to get out of and where your limitations might be. But if you're using this for work, and it says like the market in Arizona is huge, you should go expand to Arizona. Well, you should then drill down and be like, where are the stats on this? Right? Like, why are you telling me that that's the market to go after? And it should be able to point you to real sources, right? And if it doesn't, that's your responsibility, I think.
So what I'm hearing you say too, it's if you have a very clear objective for your business, whether it's an entrepreneur or a big enterprise business, if you have that clear objective and you ask the right questions, right? It can, these are ways I've never even think about, like, where are the most speakers hired? Where are the most, workshops where, they're in Phoenix or whatever. So I love that. That's a very good way I wasn't thinking of using it.
There's all sorts of more sophisticated ways to use AI tools. And I'm not going to bore you with all the like long list of tools, but there are ways to create like, hey, here is like on Notebook LM, which is one of the tools, like create me a space where I can upload my documents. I can give this tool my context. I can get it to summarize a bunch of different reports and help me understand the common themes, right? I can constrain it to this area. I can have this tool produce a podcast based on all of these sources that I've uploaded, right? You can use it in so many different ways. I think the most important thing is to get started, right? To not be afraid and to dabble, to experiment, and to experiment with like a healthy dose of skepticism, right? So if you don't know how to use it, you might not get the right results. But if you try it out, you can do that. And there's, I think, really interesting ways in which, an individual can use AI and ways in which a company can sort of, at a higher level, take a step back and say, what kind of work are we doing here? Where are the bottlenecks? Where are there opportunities for us to be smarter and faster and more efficient about the way we work?
Hello, it's Michele Phillips interrupting this podcast to talk about my brand new book, Energize Your Happiness. Tap into your personal energy and shape your destiny. I have spent 25 years researching, testing, and working with high performers. And most people think that happiness is something you earn after you succeed. I am here to tell you that we have it backwards. Happiness is a habit, and it is the fuel for everything that comes next. When I learn something and it helps me in my life, I want to share it with you. I want you to have more fulfillment. I want you to have more energy. And in Energize Your Happiness, I teach you how to manage your energy, not just your time, so you can lead yourself with clarity. You can regulate your emotions and stop running on empty. This isn't about positive thinking. It's not about pretending that life is easy. It is a practical, science-based approach that blends neuroscience, habits, and intentional mindset shifts that help you move out of stress into flow and right outcomes you actually want to live. When you learn how to apply the things that I talk about in this book, you don't just feel better, you make better decisions, you show up stronger, and you create results that last. So I am so excited about this book. I want to shout it from the rooftops. So right now, if you have not read it, I want you to go to energizeyourhappiness.com and I will send you a personally signed copy. You could go to lulu.com. You could go to amazon.com. And if it's already helped you have a better outlook, feel better, sleep easier, please, I would so appreciate a review if you are called to do this. We are all in this together, and I want you to be happy. I want you to feel fulfilled. And that's why I'm so passionate about sharing this message with you. Thank you so much for listening. Let's get back to the podcast. I love that. And so I love the skepticism part. Years, I don't even know when I started using it. A colleague just said you have to use it, use AI, ChatGPT, use Claude. And I started playing with both of them, slowly. But the more I got into it, the more I was getting good results. And I really enjoyed it. What would you say to someone who hasn't tried it yet, or where should they start? The same way I did, or is there something else you would suggest?
I mean, I honestly think like the easiest way to start is to download a free tool, right? And just use it. Use it for anything, use it for recipe planning, use it to plan a date night, use it to summarize some articles that you never got around to reading. There's just like really lightweight, free, easy ways to get started. I also encourage people to just like ask people, especially at work, like, what are you using? How are you using this? Obviously, often companies have policies on what you can and cannot use tools for, what information you can upload to a tool. All of that has to be taken into consideration. But if you want to use it personally for a product from a productivity lens, I think one good way to start is to sort of go, okay, over the last 2 weeks, where have I spent a ton of time but not gotten a ton of value out of it? Right. So for me, that can be like responding to emails, or it could be writing first drafts of something, or it could be, staying on top of HubSpot, which is like a marketing engine that you use to track what you're doing. Right. So if I go like, I'm spending a ton of time on these low value tasks, and oh, by the way, I didn't get time to write this document that I really wanted to write. This is a way to say, okay, so maybe this is where I'm hitting my bottlenecks. We all have only so many hours in a day. And then on top of that, like, how many hours do you want to devote to work? And so what I want to encourage people to do is to leverage AI to make the most out of their productive hours.
It's so important because, it's so easy to be distracted today and go down the rabbit hole of intranet or social media or whatever. Before you know it, you've scrolled to 7 different pages. So I do have a couple leaders that use it for like when their team is like their motivation is low, they go into and they go, what's a fun thing I could do at my team meeting? And I have a leader who even uses it with his kids and his wife, just ways to keep engaged in his relationships, and AI gives him these little ideas that he can implement which I love. What are give us three maybe of your favorite apps that you would recommend? You don't have to give us the whole spiel, but just what are they?
I mean, Notebook LM is a great tool especially for research. That's probably top of my list.
I'm going to write these down.
And honestly, like I wouldn't say I'm a power user of specific tools. I'm using the general purpose tools for a lot. I work very closely with a legal AI company called Walter. So that would be my pick for, all of the lawyers in your audience for sure. But I would say it's really about, figuring out, playing with ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, whichever one, floats your boat. And they are a little different and they're, better at different things, and figuring out what you like to do with it. And then going a bit deeper and figuring out like, oh, do I select a different model to do this? Oh, should I put it in, what's called a deep research mode? If I'm asking like a really detailed question and I really want to go deep here, right? So experimenting even with the general purpose tools to understand all the different things they can do. And I actually think that's one of the neatest things about the way people are using all these tools across industries is just how many people are still kind of using AI tools the way they would use Google, like ask and get an answer. But they're barely scratching the surface of what AI tools can do.
Yeah, I know I'm scratching this, but I had it write outlines, make slide decks. Again, then I put my layer on top of it, but it saves me so much time. I did have a colleague say to me, and I don't even know what he meant. Maybe you can clarify. I don't like, using ChatGPT because it opens up too many things, too much energy in the background because it opens up so many. What does that mean?
I don't actually know what they mean by too much energy in the background.
Like it was opening up too many windows.
They might have been, maybe they were using it in giving it access to their browser. That might have been it. So there's tons of different things you can do with it, but that's not a sort of a basic use of ChatGPT at all.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what he meant, but anyway, okay. What is your favorite way to use it?
Honestly, the general way I would say is just to use it as a starting point. Like I am someone who often suffers from the blank page. Like I hate that feeling when you're like, I got to get started. I don't know where to start. I have all these thoughts in my head. I've taken notes in a bunch of different places. How do I start? And I think it's such a valuable resource for getting you off the ground and for getting you what I call like 60 or 70% of the way there. So if I'm writing a report, what did I hear from clients, across a series of meetings, I can upload those transcripts. I can upload my internal notes about what I heard, and I can upload the very informal notes I wrote about where I think we're going as a result. And then it'll help you structure your thoughts, right?
I use it for that all the time. It's so helpful. Even because that starting off point, that I love what you said. I never heard it put that way, but that blank page right here. And then sometimes I just type in the random thoughts they're not articulate, but then it cleans them up for me.
Yes. And it's just sort of, for me, that's sort of that's my bottleneck. But I do think it's just really useful to say okay, in your life, where are you having trouble? Where are you spending that non-valuable time doing the stuff that you don't enjoy doing, that busy work? And so there are a million different tools. But if your challenge is reconciling invoices or uploading your expenses or taking notes on meetings, but you've got the transcripts, whatever it is, find that thing that, on a Thursday afternoon, you're like, okay, this week's almost over and I still haven't gotten through X, Y, Z. I would go and it's a personal matter, but that's where I would go. I would go say, okay, this is what I'm trying to do. And honestly, you can just then go to ChatGPT and say, here's what I'm struggling with. What's the best way for me to make this more efficient? Give me 3 options.
Okay, so I love what you just said. Could you just again? My brain's going ding ding ding. So I love it. So it's almost like this. What's the word I'm looking for? You're just watching your work life for over, let's say, give it a week, and what's that thing that's still on the list that you haven't gotten to? And I'm gonna laugh because I have this thing. I have to write an article. It says finish article on my list, and I typed it on the airplane the other day. It's all me. I didn't put it in anywhere. Something in me doesn't want to put it in ChatGPT because I want it to be my article. But that's a thing that's been sitting on the list for probably 2 weeks now. And if I just stuck it in there, it'd be done. It's still me because I already wrote it. And I have to get over myself, I think.
Well, and like I am way behind on setting up my personal website. And I know I've got all of my notes, I've got everything I need. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be kind of painful. I know I'm going to get in. I have to pick which tool I'm going to use. And I think I'm going to use Squarespace. All of them have different AI layers or tooling sort of built into their basic, web design programs. And I know I'm going to get in and be part of the way there and not be able to get it over the finish line. So I don't get started. But that's a perfect example for me where I should be loading all of the content I've written that I know I want on that website with the images that I've got and with sample websites that I really like. Like I've already selected 4 websites that I'm like, I'd really like to model my personal website on these 4. So if I gave an AI tool, hey, here's what I want it to look like. Here's all my content drafted. Here are the different pages I want. And here are the visuals. Help me design my website. Honestly, I could probably get it done, a first version, in an hour.
Okay, we're going to check back with you.
You will, and there will be a website up.
But it's getting over our own bias sometimes. Even like I had a fabulous woman on my podcast. I interviewed her a couple of weeks ago. The podcast hasn't aired yet, and she does these great her Instagram pages are hysterically funny. She's just so. I said, "Where do you get all your ideas?" She's like, "I just copy other people." I was like, "Oh my god!" Like I'm here trying to come up with something new and racking my brain. When I like what you said, you're not copying the other websites. You're modeling them. We're modeling the things we like, the things we don't like. It's all information input into our lives, and then we discern what we want. What's our layer of personality.
And look, like if I were going to go to Squarespace and design my website, they have 100 templates. Like those are also designed by other people. This is not so different. And I think what's one different lens to put on this here is to say, what I did is I went and I looked at a bunch of design samples. Yeah, and I was
exactly.
Like, oh, the one that resonates with me. I could have done that with a designer. I could have done that in Squarespace. Instead, as I was doing something else, I stumbled upon different personalities who have websites up that I think just sort of, it's also sort of what matches your personal experience, expertise, the way you set up your business. But I was like, oh, this person's model matches mine. This works for me. And I probably couldn't have articulated it.
Yes. So it's, yeah.
I can point to the examples and ChatGPT can then understand like, oh, that's what she wants.
I love it. So you could take, say, these websites that you looked at and say, these are 3 I like. Can you write me an outline for mine or write me a...
Yeah.
In
fact, I mean, at least like earlier this week, I did go on and I was like, okay, here's my level of technical proficiency. Here's the kind of website I'm trying to create. Which of these 4 tools is the easiest one for me to use? And factor in price, factor in, ability to do XYZ, like the different features. These are the ones I care about. These ones I don't think I care about, but tell me if I'm wrong. And I was like, okay, here are 3 services. Here's how they rank. What about ABC? And I was like, I don't care about that. And they're like, okay, so you're still with this ranking, but you can kind of, again, it's that notion of working with.
It's an assistant. It's another tool for you to use. So again, the fear that, the clickbait, doom and gloom headlines that, our jobs are all going to go away because, AI is going to take over. How would you answer that? I don't believe that, but how would you answer it?
I don't believe it either. I mean, look, I think the nature of work is going to change. And honestly, I hope it's actually going to be more fun and more interesting and more meaningful because I think, look, it requires people being open and willing to changing the way they work. And that's a hard thing. It's a hard thing for all of us, right? And we've all lived through it many times and probably will continue to do so. But I think in larger organizations, I think that's the most important thing is really like kind of taking stock of where you are, figuring out where you can get value out of AI solutions, investing in your people and making sure they understand how to use these AI solutions and what your guardrails are, right? Like we talked about a little bit earlier. Can you upload information? What information can you not upload? What services can you use? How do you check what comes out of this? What is client facing? What do you want to have an AI tool spit out versus what do you want to have an AI tool spit out and publish to the internet or send directly to your customers? Like where is an organization's rules about when you need a human in the loop. And I think,
and I want to go back. I want to go back to what one of your first comments was, being us all being open to the way we do our work and the way we show up. Years ago, I mean, this was many years ago, Daniel Pink wrote a book called A Whole New Mind, Why Right Brainers Will Rule the World. And his whole concept was the left brain is slowly being replaced by computerization. I might not need a lawyer. I could do my taxes online. These things that have been computerized, I guess that's the word I'm looking for. But we still need emotion. We still need people to come up with new ideas. So the more people can stay open that they have value, depending on if they're in a left brain position or a right brain position, they still have a whole brain and they have value. So to really look at the way they're working, what values do they have and how do they bring that to their life or the workplace?
Yeah, somebody I work with closely said to me, he has built and sold a couple of companies. And so he's worked with lawyers a lot, right? And he said, I vastly overpaid for the legal services. And because, I'm getting charged however much for photocopies, for emails, for filing things, whatever it is. He's like, but I underpaid for the legal advice I got because that advice was amazing. And it saved, made me money, whatever it is. But like he saw the value in the advice he was getting. And like, look, at the end of the day, what do you want to be valued for? Like, that's what I want to be valued for, not all of the busy work that I did to get there.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's so good. Yeah, I love the saying, like when you buy a book, you're not paying for the paper, you're paying for the wisdom. So when you hire the lawyer, right, he might make copies, but you're really paying for the wisdom and the experience that nobody takes away from anybody. So that is fabulous. What final words of wisdom do you want to leave us with?
I think for the enterprise side, I would say very briefly, like, it's really important to get a handle on where you are as an organization, what data you have available, and making sure that your data is clean without going into the technical aspects so that it's ready to use to give AI tools that context that can make it so much more powerful for you. And for people, I think it's really just, sometimes I think people have a hard time starting because they don't know where to start. And I would just encourage people to start and get comfortable with the capabilities and the limitations of whatever tools you use. And then think about, and what I think, if we then go to the other side, people who are starting AI businesses or starting a new business enabled by AI, it's really about being really clear on how you're delivering value and how you're measuring that value. And I think we're all going to change in terms of where we place the emphasis.
Thank you. And I think, that could be a whole other topic of people using AI to start their whole business. So I'll have you back for that one because that boggles my mind a little bit still. Where can people find you?
Easiest place and most reliable is on LinkedIn.
Okay, great. So it's Lauren Cappell on LinkedIn. It's Cappell. It'll be in the show notes. This is fascinating. Again, it's, being open to playing with things and embracing it because from the beginning you said it's not going away. So thank you for being a guest.
Thank you so much, Michelle. It was lovely being here.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. This is Michele Phillips. Write your outcome. Make it a great day.